All right, folks, we are now moving on to the Green Bay Packers. That is right. We're talking about the Green Bay Packers in this 2025 NFL season, and we are talking everything from losses, additions, takeaways, major injuries. What are our concerns, and ultimately, what bets are we going to be making on this team here? So let's go for a deep dive to these Green Bay Packers here. Start with their losses, as we always do. Who is leaving them and moving on to maybe greener pastures, maybe not. Some notable names here. AJ Dillon kind of was a non-factor, obviously last season.
Yep.
He left kind of early or during the season, I think. Big defensive tackle TJ Slayton is now at the Bengals. Linebacker Eric Wilson is with the division rival Minnesota Vikings. And then this is where we really kind of get to the bread and butter here. Jaire Alexander is now a Baltimore Raven. Eric Stokes is now a Las Vegas Raider. And cornerback Corey Ballantyne is now an Indianapolis Colts. A lot of changeover really in that cornerback room. They did bring in Nate Hobbs, but how are you feeling about these cornerbacks going into this 2025 NFL season there for the Green Bay Packers?
I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think. Mostly because Jaire Alexander has been on and off the field a lot over the last couple of years, and some of the guys that are basically filling roles now have had a fair amount of playing time as it is. So the guys that are most likely going to be starting at corner is Carrington Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon, and then Isaiah McDuffie will be in the slot. Nickel will be Nate Hobbs, who they brought in this year. A couple of these guys, like I said, have gotten a good amount of playing time over the last couple of years when Jaire Alexander has been dealing with injuries or just being a knucklehead himself. Now, when he is on the field, he's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. But I think he's by far the biggest loss for the Packers. Other than that, there's not a ton of turnover up there in Green Bay.
Yeah, look, I mean, Jaire Alexander and Stokes are definitely more talented, in my opinion, or at least Stokes came in as a high draft pick and he had more potential. Didn't really pan out, but I don't know, man. Relying on Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, and Nate Hobbs, I do like their safeties there. Look, Keyshawn Nixon is a great return man. If you're in the IDP streets, he was great because he would get those return yards and everything like that. So he's a fun player there. I just don't like. All right. Let's talk about, some of these wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to put any of those guys on an island with any of the top guys. Now, I do like their safeties. Evan Williams, Xavier McKinney, as much as it hurts me to say as a Giants fan, Xavier McKinney had a great year, and Evan Williams is a young, nice player for that. I like their linebackers and their D-line, but I do have questions on their cornerbacks. Going over to the offense, let's kind of switch gears here. Let's talk about these wide receivers. They brought in Mecole Hardman, Matthew Golden from the draft, and TCU wide receiver Savion Williams. They also did bring in Aaron Banks, which I think was a nice addition to the offensive line, which was already pretty good. What the hell is going on with this wide receiver room?
Well, they've basically brought in like 6 wide receiver 2/3s.
Right.
I don't know if they have a wide receiver 1 on the team. Now, Matthew Golden could be that guy, but he's more of a slot dude.
Yeah,
so
they don't have a big body wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't know what is up with the Packers, like just loving like 5'10" wide receivers, but yeah, I guess I just don't know. They just have guys that they can just rotate in every other play.
Yeah. I mean, look, Christian Watson was kind of their bigger wide receiver. He has a torn ACL. He tore his ACL on January 5th. There is a good chance he misses the entire season next year. He's definitely going to be on the pup. Definitely going to,
especially with his history of leg injuries as a whole. Last year we were talking about his hamstrings being 50% strength compared to the other side or whatever it was.
That was awful. And those Packers, we can trust their their recovery room. You know, we're talking about their they have the speed push bench press.
Yes,
was their thing. They had like 4 pec tears. Yeah, I don't know if the Packers injury,
including like an offensive coordinator or something.
It was LaFleur himself.
Oh, was it LaFleur? Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, these Green Bay Packers, I do appreciate how they drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Now that, Rodgers being gone. So, but look, coming in at 11-6 last season, they still are swearing up to be a nice team. I think this is where our big question is. Is Jordan Love the guy? Obviously, if you ask Packer fans, I'm sure they would say yes and yada, yada. But I'm asking you, would you want Jordan Love to be your quarterback 1 on your team?
Well, as a Steelers fan, hell yeah. But it's a massive question. I mean, going back 2 years, the first year that he started, he struggled the first half, and then he caught fire in the second half of the season. Last year, I think it was MCL, meniscus, something like that in the first game against the Eagles. He didn't really ever come back from that. It seemed like he never caught his footing after that. It just seemed like I think he had another nagging injury or 2. I don't know if he missed more time, but he just never really got going last year. And I think it's just one of those things that I don't know if it was necessarily that injury that he was just trying to play through the entire year, but it seemed like it. And it just, he never looked like the Jordan Love that we saw 2 years ago in the second half of the season. I think he could still be that guy. But the question's out there.
Yeah. I will say I'm a little bit more pessimistic here.
Yeah.
As far as the question of, is Jordan Love elite? I'm going to say no. Is he a top 10 quarterback in the league? I'm going to say no. He's not too far behind. He's probably somewhere in that 10 to 15 range.
Yeah.
However, when we think about, this team, they were 11-6. But let's be honest. I mean, for 2-3 weeks, Malik Willis came in there and looked like the best he's seen, and he was undefeated as a starter. Sure. So how much does Love really, I think that's kind of why I think this team's going to still be a good team, but I think they're going to be limited by 2 things, in my opinion, and it's the quarterback and it's the cornerback room. I think those are the 2 limiting factors on this team. Again, we'll kind of talk win total and stuff like that. I'm not really looking to outwardly fade this team because I do think LaFleur is a good coach. I think their defense is coming around. I think their offensive line is good, and I think Josh Jacobs can be a workhorse. And they've got guys in Tucker Kraft, and they can make some things happen. But this is definitely I think this team really does have a ceiling, kind of like last year of like, hey, maybe we'll make the playoffs, but first, second round exit for me is kind of what I see there. But let's talk. We talked major injury because they only really have one. First up, we're talking about none other than Mr. Bob Lung's fantasy most of the season, if not all. Guide. Get a leg. Otherwise, they're pretty healthy coming in, which is always a good sign of the fantasy football fantasy takeaways. What are we thinking here? Purchase fantasy wise. Any big takeaways for $15 on Amazon?
I would say
search 2025
going back to your
fantasy
question
football
about Jordan Love,
consistency guide.
Is he elite? Probably not. He's probably in that 10 to 15 range, like you said, which means that this offense is gonna have to, and it will run through Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs, ADP wise, I'm not exactly sure where he's going, but you're going to get some pretty good value.
I'm going to say later than he should.
Yeah, he's going a lot later than he should. He's just a dude that is on the field all the time, and he's just a workhorse. He's like a Derrick Henry to the point where he's not a huge threat out of the backfield receiving wise, but he's going to bowl some people over. And I think that's exactly where the Packers need him to be, as far as their 15 wide receiver 2s and Jordan Love, like they're going to be okay in the passing game, but Josh Jacobs really helped take them to the next level this past season in the rushing game.
Yeah, he's going around RB 10, 9, 8 there.
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed to find definitely 10 better running backs fantasy wise than Josh
Yeah.
Jacobs, especially
You're
given.
getting a lot of value with Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, he's a workhorse, and he's shown the ability to do that not only in Green Bay last year, where he had a phenomenal year, but
Yep.
also with the Raiders
With the
back in
Raiders.
the
Yep.
day. I mean, so he had 300 carries, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns there for the Raiders. So I do like Jacobs. The other guy I'm going to target here is Tucker Kraft. I think he could be set up for a big year here. We talked about, hey, wide receiver, what's it going to look like? I think it's a little bit tough. I mean, Jayden Reed was the kind of, I guess, wide receiver one by yardage and touchdowns, but the guy with the most touchdowns on the team receiving market was Tucker Kraft.
Yep.
50 catches, 70 targets, 770
He's the
yards.
only guy over 6 foot in the room.
Yes, maybe taking out Christian Watson. Yeah, you might be right there.
Healthy guy over 6 foot.
Right. Yeah, I think Savion Williams is a big boy, but
Yes.
what's that going to look like? Yeah, so I like Tucker Kraft. I like Josh Jacobs there. I definitely have to agree with you. Those are the two guys I would probably be targeting, think have a little bit of value. All right, let's talk bets. Let's talk the fun stuff. Let's talk money. Win total for this team, 9.5. Over, again, a little bit variable. I've seen it -110, -120, +105. Under the other way, a little bit more, again, kind of variable. But 9.5 is kind of around where they're sitting at the win total. Make playoffs sitting around -112 to -135. Miss playoffs I've seen as good as +110 or -108. To win the division, right around +260, +250. To win the NFC, right around 11-1, and then to win the Super Bowl, about 22 to 20-1, depending on what book you look at there.
Yep.
We'll start there. Anything you like as far as win total or futures for this team?
Why don't you answer that question first?
Yeah, look, this is going to be one where I am not looking to play a win total or future. I think they're right around that 9.5 kind of mark, right? If they won 9 games, I wouldn't be shocked. If they won 10 or 11, I would not be shocked. Like I think this is a very similar team to last year. The cornerback room kind of looked like this last year with Stokes and Jaire Alexander kind of having those injuries. Now, if those guys go down, we could be in a real world of hurt there for Green Bay. But I think that Jordan Love, I think he's good. I don't think he's kind of good enough to push them to like really contend for that number one or kind of, I don't even really think they're going to be, well, they'll be in the conversation to win the division, but it's not a price that I like enough. So I think this is right around a 9 or a 10 win team. So for me, I'm going to kind of stay put there on the win total in the futures. What say you?
So the win total is 9.5. I'll one up you, and I think they're over 10.5 at +155.
Okay.
Based on the 4 teams in this division, they had the least amount of turnover, player wise as well as coordinator wise, in this division. And I think in general, over the past couple of seasons, the Packers have been playoff teams, and I think it's gonna take at least 10 wins to make the playoffs in most years. Give me the 10.5 at +155. I think in general, like I said to start this show, I think the top of this division is going to come down. I think the bottom of this division is going to come up just a little bit. They finished with 11 wins. I see them finishing with 11 or 12 wins again this year.
Yeah. No, look, I don't hate it. I like your point about the least turnover, right? I mean, we talked to, Detroit Lions and their coaching changes and roster. The Vikings have a ton of roster change. The Bears have a ton of roster change and coaching change. So, yeah, I think your point about consistency is a fair point. Like I said, I could see anything from, 11-9 would definitely be, like, that would make sense for me. So
and to your earlier point, I think if Jordan Love goes down, Malik Willis didn't look bad last year, and from a cornerback perspective, they kind of had the same guys playing. So it's like our major questions, like they're major questions for a reason, but they're kind of the same questions we had last year.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. All right. So my best bets for the Packers going to the player side of things.
Yeah.
Two guys we kind of talked about when we talked about fantasy. We'll start with Mr. Tucker Kraft, 5+ receiving touchdowns at +100 and over 600.5 receiving yards at -110. Both of those over at DraftKings there. Kraft, rookie season came in, used sparingly, 31 catches, 355 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Last season, we saw him, really kind of take a step forward, 50 catches, 700 yards, 7 touchdowns. Beat these pretty easily last year. I just don't see a reason why we would see any type of regression. I think he's going to have a better year, but I think he's at least going to get over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. We talked about, hey, when you're running a lot of slot wide receivers, yes, Josh Jacobs is definitely going to be a battering ram and get probably the bulk of those touchdowns. But you got to have a big target in the red zone when we're talking about the pass. They create things for him. They ran a lot of slip screens and tight end screens and different plays for Tucker Kraft to get him the ball, especially in the red zone. So I definitely like both those plays there. I probably like the touchdown a little bit more because you're getting a little bit of plus money there. The other guy I'm going to go with is Josh Jacobs, another guy we talked about here, and I'm going to specifically target his rushing touchdowns. First off, we're going to start with the first easy one, over 9.5 touchdowns. Look, Josh Jacobs, again, he is that workhorse mentality. That is what he brings. Question for you.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs had 15 touchdowns, so he beat this by 6 touchdowns last year.
Okay.
What do you think the leader in the NFL had in rushing touchdowns last year?
I'm going to say 17.
16. There was 3 guys. It was Gibbs, Derrick Henry, and I think Jonathan Taylor. Maybe I don't know who the last one was, but 16 only. So you're telling me that Josh Jacobs was only one off the NFL lead for rushing touchdowns, and his price to lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns this year, 20-1.
Who?
Look,
all he has to jump on that one.
All he has to do is have about as good of a year or a little bit better, and he's right there. He's right there, right? So like you talked about, we expect this team to look very similar. Offensive line, honestly, with Aaron Banks, I think might have had a little bit of an upgrade. And they still have Jordan Morgan, who they draft. So I think they're going to be a run-first team. They're going to be a run-first team. I don't think they're going to be slinging it all over the yard. They're going to have a good defense. And when they get in the red zone, I don't think Jordan Love is going to take away from anything like that. We talked about they're not going to be throwing up a lot of deep balls to Mike Evans and stuff like that. So Josh Jacobs is kind of going to be the guy in Baltimore with kind of like Derrick Henry, but you don't have Lamar to compete with, right? So I really liked. I just thought that price did not match what he did last year, what this offense is capable of. I like Josh Jacobs over 9.5 rush touchdowns at -110, but I really like lead the NFL in rush touchdowns at 20-1 there. Again, had 15 last year, 16. All right,
I like that. So, like I said, I like the Packers going into this year. I took their over 10.5 wins. I do like the Lions in this division to also have a pretty good year. I would take their over 10.5 wins. So the Packers was at +155. If I pair the Packers and the Lions to finish 1-2, it doesn't matter order-wise, in the division, you can get it at +240.
Oh.
And I'm all over that. Like I said,
not even an exacta, just top
not
2
an exacta,
teams.
just top 2
teams. Okay.
Packers, Lions at +240.
Huh? I don't hate that. I'll talk about why I'll go in a little bit different direction, but I definitely do not hate that. You got anything else for these Packers?
Yeah, I think there's a reason why you have been talking a lot about Tucker Kraft and Josh Jacobs. I'm going to switch over to Jordan Love, and we're going to just stay away from all wide receiver props because who knows which of the 27 wide receivers is actually going to, perform. But Jordan Love's over 25.5 passing touchdowns at -110. He had 25 last year. The year before that, he had 32. Obviously, the 2-3 years he was in the league before that, he was backing up Aaron Rodgers. But I mentioned last year, it just seemed like he never caught his footing. And I
Missed a couple
think
games.
exactly. I think this is kind of the third year is when I tend to get the most information from quarterbacks on, hey, are they continuing to ascend, or are they, top half of the league guys, or are they just never gonna get there?
Right.
And I think Jordan Love, with the team around him, I think he's gonna have a year where he's not gonna lead the league in passing yards or touchdowns, but it's gonna be better than last year because
Yeah.
I think just overall consistency of guys that he has in the room. They brought in Matthew Golden to help him out. I think that he will continue to take a next step. Will he take 4 or 5 and be the league MVP? I don't think so, but I
Right.
think that he's going to be at least as good as he was last year, if not, push for that 30 touchdown mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I mean, it's a little bit counterproductive to my Josh Jacobs play, but he's got to get at least 5 to Tucker Kraft.
Hey, they got to score a lot to win at least 11, 12 games. So I like all of the above.
Yeah, look, I think that, I mean, he had 25 last year and he missed a couple games, right?
Yep.
I think that's a pretty low number to be set at. I know they have to price in injury a little bit for these guys, but he's not really a someone who runs a ton. So from that perspective, I think the injury risk is a little bit lower. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think over 25.5 is very doable for this type of offense there. So, all right, that is it for the Green Bay Packers there for their 2025 season outlook. We are going to move on, but before we do that, we are going to talk about another sponsor here, and that is idpplus.com. That's right. You want to head on over to idpplus.com. We've got tons of subscriptions and memberships. You're going to want to get your subscription so you can join the subscribers-only Discord. We also have exclusive content just for subscribers. So there's tons of deals out there. So head on over to idpplus.com right now and see, well, maybe wait until the episode's done. But then head on over to idpplus.com and check those out.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.